Hey everybody, this is Linda Ann and I'm coming to you from Tucson, Arizona, and I'm here with my friend Patrick, who is going to be actually talking about what it's like to be an everyday black man in America. And this is hopefully one of many Porch interviews. I really felt like I wanted to do something to support my black brothers and sisters in America, and this is kind of what I'm doing. This is what I feel moved to do. Patrick and I met, and he told me a few stories, and it occurred to me how important these stories were for people to hear and to understand what our black brothers and sisters go through in this country and have been going through for many years. So this is why it's really important for us to stay on top of this and keep our foot on the gas. So having said that, I'm going to flip the camera around here. This is my first time doing this, so hopefully it all turns out. Doing a Porch interview. This is our very first one. So Patrick, if you could just, let us know where you're from and tell us a story.
Okay. I'm originally from District Heights, Maryland. I was born in Southern Maryland Hospital in Clinton, Maryland. I lived in District Heights for quite some time with my grandmother and my mother. And then we moved around a couple different places in Maryland and ended up in Charles County, Maryland, which is where I ended up graduating high school, and lived in Alabama, Auburn, Alabama, and then moved back to Maryland, and then now I'm here in Tucson. I've been here for about 7 or 8 years now.
Okay, tell me about your family.
So I met my wife, Chloe, in DC actually when she was working. We were both working at jobs that worked together, and so we met back then, and we got married back in 2014 after we moved to Tucson, and we have 3 little beautiful children.
They are beautiful, I can attest to that. So is Chloe.
The oldest is about to be 4, and the middle is about to be 3, and the youngest will be 2 in December.
We have Maddox, Lennox, and Hendrix.
Yeah. And yeah, we just, we're entrepreneurs, we're self-employed, and we kind of just vibe out over here in our own little world.
That's awesome. Well, a little while back, you and I were just, kind of having a conversation here in front of your porch, your patio, and you were telling me, some different stories, and they were very compelling. And so, I had this idea and asked you if you wouldn't mind, reiterating those stories. I didn't want to tell them secondhand because I didn't want to leave anything out or, inform, so to speak. So could you just, tell me about, one of your experiences growing up, or even as a young adult, a black man in America, and how it sort of has, formed your, the way you behave in this world.
Yeah.
So go ahead. I'm going to, give you the time here.
Well, Tucson is a lot different than the area where I grew up. Probably the biggest differences are just the amount of black people that are around, and the next biggest difference is probably the way that the police interact with black people. As far as my experience, I can't speak for everybody, but there seems to be a general rule of kindness more here than there is back in PG County, which is if anybody that's ever lived in PG County knows, probably had an interaction with the PG County police, and know that it's not necessarily a positive one. It's the same thing when you go from PG County to Montgomery County, where just...
May I interject a moment and ask you, what is PG County like? Is it a rural area?
No, it's
a city?
It's like half and half.
Okay.
There's little pockets of areas where it's more concentrated.
What are the demographics there? Is it more African American than Caucasian, or?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. PG County kind of covers Forestville, Largo, District Heights, Capitol Heights. There's a few other, Suitland, a few other places in there that's kind of in that county.
Okay.
But it's pretty much a black area.
Is it close to DC?
Very close.
Okay, gotcha.
You probably, from where I grew up, it's probably about a 7 to 10 minute ride.
Okay.
Down.
Wow, that's really close.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right down the street for real. And I mean, that whole area is kind of, that's why they call it, DC was called Chocolate City, is because it's mostly
Okay.
an African American area.
Okay.
And so, kind of the things that we experience, we kind of all have those experiences. I don't think there's really too many people that are sheltered from that, just because it's mostly us in that area.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that there's no other races there, because there definitely are. It's really I guess a smaller melting pot. It's still a melting pot, but not as much of one as like I've seen here in Tucson, where there are a lot less black people, but then there's other many more races of people
Right.
that I've seen. But yeah, so a lot of the negative experiences have just really come from police, honestly.
Okay.
And
Can you tell me one?
So I was with a friend of mine, and I was living in DC at the time, and we were headed out to Montgomery County to meet some ladies. And on our way there, we had some alcohol in the car. It was winter time, so we had our coats and stuff like that.
How old do you think you were?
I was probably like 23.
Okay,
22,
a young
23.
buck out having fun with his his
I was
guy,
driving
his partner.
my car.
Yep.
No problems with that. Probably as soon as I crossed over the line into Montgomery County, a state trooper pulled me over. I came into the county, and I made a left at the light, and the guy, I don't know where he came from, he just popped up, him and his partner, and they immediately, when they came up to the car, like the first question is like, you have any rocket launchers, any AK-47s, or any handguns, or anything like that in the car?
Never had anybody ask me that.
Yeah, and I mean, that's like a regular question,
Wow.
to be honest. And so, no, don't have any of that. License and registration. So gave him my stuff and just like, what happened? Why'd you pull me over? And I don't remember exactly why, but I think he said I made a wide left turn at the light.
Wow.
But
how dare you?
I mean, in order for him to know that, he would have had to wait for me to make the turn before you pull me over for saying that I'm making a wide turn at a light. When I haven't made the turn yet. When you cut your lights off behind me.
Okay.
So we did that, and he ran my stuff, I guess, and then came back and asked us to step out of the car because he said that his partner smelled marijuana in the car. And at the time, I was smoking these little mini cigars called Al Capones.
Okay.
And so it's probably like this big, and I had it in the ashtray. And so I'm guessing that that's what the guy saw and thought that there was weed in the car, because my passenger window was up and I never rolled it down. So when he said that, I'm just like, I questioned him, like, the window's been up the whole time, so how did he smell weed on the passenger side window if it was never down? And so he was just like, can you step out the car? So got out the car
because your mother and your grandmother told you to be compliant.
Everybody says don't fight back, because that's not something we can do, or you end up in a situation that you don't want to be in.
Right.
So we get out. They asked us to leave our coats in the car. It's wintertime. So we do it reluctantly. They get us over to like the side of the car and like searching us, patting us down. One guy is like, I don't know if you've ever seen this before, but a lot of times you get pulled over by police in certain areas, and they'll like use their hand to like chop in your
inside your legs.
Area,
I've seen that.
To see if there's anything like hiding in your groin area.
Right,
anything.
exactly. And they did it
Yeah, so they did that.
a little extra hard.
I mean, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And then they asked me to pop the trunk, no weapons in the car. They asked me if they could search the car. I said yes. They searched the car. There wasn't anything in the car. It was a bottle of alcohol, but it was unopened.
Right.
So then, after they didn't find anything, he just told me to take it easy on the turns, and they left. And when they left, when I came back to the car, there was a baggie, like probably a baggie that big, with like red skulls sitting on my seat, and that's not something that I had ever bought or anything like that. And then they didn't say anything about it. They just got in the car, hopped, and left. Didn't write me a warning, no ticket.
What is red skull? Is that what you said?
Yeah, like red skulls, little red skulls on the bag. It's like a dime baggie, probably like that big, or a nickel baggie. I don't remember which side. It was a small one. And
Did it have weed inside of it?
No, it didn't have anything in it.
Just a bag with
bag.
red, like
With
skulls.
red.
Like you mean human skulls?
Yeah,
On the outside of the bag?
yeah, just like a print on the bag.
Oh wow! So in other words, like
It wasn't mine. It wasn't my friend's.
and it wasn't your friend's,
I
and
know
it wasn't
that.
there when you got in the
Yeah,
car.
it wasn't there before.
So you think they could have dropped it there
I'm
to
guessing that
intimidate
they
you?
left it there as, I mean, I don't know why. I would just take it as a sign, like,
An intimidation
don't do anything
in our county.
in our county. Yeah.
Were these officers officers white?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Is Montgomery County a little more white than
Yes.
the other county? Okay.
Montgomery County, the PG County for sure. Even going into Charles County is a lot of. I guess it might be half and half more so. But Montgomery County is mostly whiter area.
How many times do you think you've been stopped like that by white police officers, because you were driving while you were black, basically?
I would say it's probably about 5 to 10 times. I mean, in those times, I may have done something like I was telling you one time, on my way to work, I had just moved back to Maryland from Alabama, so I hadn't switched my tags over. And I was driving past the school, but I was in a line. It was a 2-lane road, so there was 3 cars in front of me, 3 cars behind me, or 2 or 3 cars in front and behind. I was riding in traffic. Speed limit's 25 at the school zone, so I'm kind of just coasting along with what everybody else is doing. A police officer came past me. This is in PG County. Police officer came past me, and I saw him look at me, and he immediately made a U-turn and cut his lights on and made everybody behind me move out of the way so he could pull me over.
Wow.
And so when he came up to the car, I already had my license and registration. I'm just like, what's up, man? Like,
Yeah.
what are we doing? And he was like, I pulled you over because you didn't have your seatbelt on. I'm like, it's on. What do you mean? And so his next thing was, well, you don't have a tag in the front of your car, and that's illegal in Maryland. I'm like, I just moved back from Alabama. I still have my Alabama plates. I haven't gotten my Maryland registration and stuff yet.
Okay.
And he's like, well, then you have an air freshener hanging from your rear window.
Okay.
Rear mirror.
Okay.
So
Rear
I'm
view
just
mirror,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, I'm just like, and you just like picking things, my man. He was like, and you were speeding. And I'm like, how am I going to speed if I'm going in the same line as traffic? You should have pulled everybody else over as well. I'm behind 3 cars, and we're going down the road. There's 3 cars behind me. Like, how do you pick me out with no radar and just say I'm speeding? So he took my information, went back to the car, came back with a ticket. He wrote me a citation for each of those things. I ended up fighting it, going to court, and they ended up throwing everything out, especially like the 26 and the 25 in the school zone. They threw that out. They threw out everything but the seatbelt thing, because they were like, well, you could have put the seatbelt on when he passed you, knowing that he was going to pull you over. I'm just like, whatever. So I ended up paying that. But I mean, situations like that, where it's like, okay, I didn't know that it was illegal to have something hanging from your
Yeah, I didn't
window.
either until you told me during our first little storytelling session that we had. Yeah.
And that's when I found out, and when I went to court. I mean, I didn't even know when he wrote the ticket. I'm just like, I mean, he had to check other in order to write that in. And that's before the times of like they print the tickets now where they have to write them.
Right.
And the judge was the one that told me, like, yeah, it's illegal. So we're going to throw it out. But
did you have any problems like during school, like when you were growing up, or with like say teachers or authority figures, or where you felt like unsafe or?
I didn't necessarily have any problems with teachers or anything like that.
That's good.
I've always kind of
it's mostly
easy to work with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're a pretty chill guy.
Yeah, exactly. I've always been this way for the most part. I haven't really had any negative interactions with people really on a whole. I have some people that don't like me, but that's natural. I don't really care.
Unlucky for them.
Yeah, exactly. But a lot of my interactions that have been negative have just been in that aspect, or like in aspects with my father. It's not even like abuse or anything like that. My negative interactions with him was more so just of neglect and wanting more from him.
Exactly.
And not being able to get it.
So mostly your stories about being a black man in America, experiencing what you feel is targeting you because of your gender and your race by white police officers.
Yeah, I mean, it's targeting for real. I mean, right before we moved out here, we had just bought a car, and we bought it in DC, and we were driving back to our apartment in Subin, and on the way back, as we were just about to cross the line, we got pulled over. And when the guy pulled us over, it wasn't just him, it was like him and maybe, I think, like one other car. First question they asked, we got the paper tags on the car and everything. Any rocket launchers, AK-47s.
I'm sorry, but I've never had, I've been stopped by the police like two or three times in my life. I'm a lot older than you, but it's been usually for speeding, and I've never been asked that. I've never heard that until you told me this, and I don't know if hey, good, how are you? I don't know if that's a common thing that they do now after 9/11 or something like that, but there really aren't any like black militias going on in our country, like where these fringe groups, they're going and committing domestic terrorism. It's usually, the white right-wing, people, or, a religious sort of affiliation, things like that. So, I don't know. I'm gonna have to check into that. If that's, I have quite a few like police officer friends.
Yeah.
I'll have to check into whether or not that is a common practice now. So I'll get back to you on that.
I haven't been asked that question since that last time when I was pulled over in DC.
But he asked you that first. I'm sorry, I interrupted, but I just wanted to kind of say that.
Because it seems like an unusual question.
It is.
I'll be honest, the first time I was asked, I was just like
what?
Where do you get like my first initial question for him, I wanted to be like, where do you get a rocket launcher?
I know, right?
I could see
where would you even do that?
The other stuff, but like a rocket launcher, is that something that police officers generally
that's so funny.
run into when you pull somebody
I don't
over?
know.
They have rocket launchers in the car.
I don't know. Who knows?
Even what's the statistic as far as black people
exactly
having rocket launchers?
Oh my God, black people with rocket launchers.
So it's weird every time they ask me, and that I'm glad that was the last time. It's been a minute.
So what happened after he asked you that?
So after he asked me, I was just like, no. And he's like, license and registration. I'm just like, okay. What are we doing? Like, what happened? Why are you pulling me over? Because at this point, I was closer to 30 than I was to 20, and so I've had a decent amount of experiences now. So I know at least by this point, I can ask you, like, why are you pulling me over?
Absolutely.
Because before it was like, you don't question, just
exactly.
Get your license, registration, be quiet, give it to him, take whatever he's given, and keep it pushing because you're still alive.
Right.
But for this time, I'm just like, I just want to know, like, what did I do? Well, your tail light's out. And I'm just like, dude, you can see the paper tags. It says today. I just bought this car from somebody. So like I haven't had a chance to do anything. And he's like, all right, you mind popping the trunk? And I'm just like, for what? Like,
oh my goodness.
What are we popping the trunk for, my man? So we can search the vehicle. And I was just like, you know what? Do your thing. Do your thing. They didn't make me and Chloe get out the car. So they searched the trunk, didn't find anything, gave me a warning. He didn't even write it. It was just like, get that tail light fixed, pulled out. And then his buddies rolled. Just like, I left us kind of like, what are we supposed to do? I mean, what do you do? I'm just realizing in my later years in life, honestly, that you can even complain or file a complaint against the police because that wasn't common knowledge.
Did you have a tail light out though? Did you check when you got home to see if your tail light was out?
I'm not sure if I did, but I do know I didn't fix it, and I drove all the way to Tucson, and I drove here for a whole year and a half and never got pulled over once for that same issue. I know when I traded the car in, right when I sold the car, they listed the tail light being out as one of the problems. So I never got it fixed. But it was kind of like, after that, it was just like, I just want to see what's going to happen now. I mean, I'm about to drive across the country, so I'll be passing through a whole lot of different places from Maryland to Arizona, and I didn't get pulled over one time, not one time.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Wasn't pulled over at all in Tucson. But that tail light thing and like brake lights and stuff like that could literally lead to your car being searched just because.
Well, I mean, it's pretty common knowledge that law enforcement uses those little, I mean, I've actually literally had police officers or law enforcement personnel tell me that if they suspect something, they always look for a reason to be able to stop that person. I mean, I'm not so sure if that was me, you know, a white middle-aged woman, that they would have expended the energy and time to stop me and want to. So, you know, there is, do you feel that there is this idea, so many people in this country and world, but, you know, a lot in this country have this feeling, and, you know, even a lot of white people who feel like they're like not racist or anything, and they, you know, they claim that they're not just not racist, but anti-racist or whatever, but they still have this idea that, oh, well, you know, well, you know, it's two black guys, you know, blah, 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 doing this or that, and, you know, they were probably up to no good. Well, what makes you think that? Just because they were black? You know, or somebody might make a comment like, oh, you know, he's black, but you know, he's really nice. I'm like, well, why wouldn't he be? Yeah. You know, so I oftentimes will respond if somebody says something like that to that, and then I'll say, you're not racist, are you? You know, we just to you know, bring it out to shed light on something. Yeah. You know, because things stay sick in, you know, in the darkness. You know, when they're kept secret underground. Mm-hmm. You know, you have to shed light on it. So, I mean, do you? I mean, have you ever experienced, you know, walking down the street and having a white woman clutch your purse, or, you know?
I mean, that's like that's even in Tucson. Like, I could be in Walmart and just minding my business, grocery shopping. Mm-hmm. It's not like obvious, like, oh, right. It's more so just like. I'm just like, I don't want your shit. Like,
so the thing is that I believe, I mean, and you know, you can, I want your opinion too, but I really oftentimes think that it's because it's something that's sort of ingrained, you know, like it's born, raised, you know, people are raised to be suspicious, you know, of people who are different from them. So there's a little bit of that going on. And I think that what we're doing here, and I'm just, you know, you and I, we're just doing our little piece here in our little corner of the world in Tucson, Arizona, to try to, you know, bring light to the fact that no matter how much you think you might be accepting of people who are not like you, oftentimes we need to dig a little deeper. Yeah. Oh, these flies. Yeah. You know, it's the humidity is raised a little bit, so. But, you know, dig a little deeper and like really ask yourself some difficult questions, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's from all sides because I'll admit, like, being in the area that I was from, I wasn't necessarily keen to open it up to white people.
Right.
It's not like it's not a prejudice. It's just like, it's kind of weird when you don't know that somebody that you're talking to can understand some of the experiences that you've been through. At the same time, can't understand some of the experiences that you've been through.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's hard to have a genuine conversation unless you're really open, because then you don't have to keep anything off the table. Like I said, my experiences are mine. I'm not afraid of them. They made me who I am today. And so I've never changed as far as a person. I've gotten wiser and gained more information and knowledge. But I'm still the same person. Every time they pull me over, I'm still calm and collected.
What would you say to like the white people out there who are wrestling, with this whole idea of Black Lives Matter, and who want to respond to the All Lives Matter? They want to respond to the BLM chant to All Lives Matter, and although they claim that they're not racist or whatever, they clearly don't really truly understand the depth of the meaning of BLM. I mean, and like the systemic racism that has been going on for generations and generations and generations.
It's like I was telling you, that one day, it's just like a lot of times Black people don't share their experiences outside of our culture, because we don't want to be looked at like, oh, you're just playing the race card, or you're just bringing that up, you're just saying that because you're Black. We don't want to get that experience. So you could really get some information from the Black people that you know, just by really letting them talk and not adding any judgment. Everybody, a lot of Black people go to church, a lot of white people go to church. Religion is a big thing in the world. So if you believe in that, then you got to know that at the same time people are screaming Black Lives Matter, they believe that all lives matter, because we're all humans.
Right.
But at the time that they're saying it because Black people are literally being killed in the street.
Right, exactly.
And it's by a government entity, and yes, the statistics will show that a lot of more white people are killed than Black people, but in the looking at the population where we're less a majority, and we make up a majority of the deaths, that's where the problem is. And that's why people are saying Black Lives Matter and in the street chanting, because if you can say all lives matter when people chant Black Lives Matter in regards to what's currently happening, then to me, you're not somebody that can take your uncle or your husband or your son and put them in George Floyd's situation.
Right.
And actually feel an emotion based off that. And that's where the problem is, because if it was a white person, I would expect that white people would be in the street marching for that same thing. It's all about police brutality, but we're not going to go out and say all lives matter when they're mostly killing us that way.
Yes.
That would be my response.
And do you think that also, because I feel that the Black Lives Matter movement could also be added to, or I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but when you look at all the crime and the murders and the shootings and killings in the whole country, and particularly Chicago, where it's mostly black on black crime, to me it's people, stop killing each other. You've got, white people doing that too, of course, all right? But in Chicago in particular, it's that.
Yeah, crime is going to happen anywhere.
It does. Look at the 3 white kids who were just, killed down in, wherever, Florida.
Yeah. It's all about, people are in Chicago. I think what's really fueling that is lack of trust in the government, lack of want to go out and chase the American dream, and really a lack of opportunity, because you put crabs in a barrel, they're going to try to get to the top. And that's whether you're white, black, whatever.
Okay.
And so in that area, you see a lot of black on black crime, because that's where there's a lot of black people there.
Right.
And crime is being committed, like I said, everywhere. In Tucson, it's not going to be as much of that.
Right.
You know, in
I
Phoenix,
noticed that.
in Phoenix, there may be more of it, but it's all about the population of the area. And in Chicago, they're really fighting for the opportunity to be able to make more money. But if there were more opportunities for them to do that outside of what's happening in the street, you probably wouldn't have the same issue. I mean, a lot of the government programs and stuff, even like it's coming out now, they're like the PPP programs and stuff like that are, black people are being denied that type of assistance.
Can you explain that to me? What's the PPE program?
The PPP program for like for the pandemic, for like small business owners.
And
like
right,
contractors
exactly,
and stuff like that. They're being denied these loans from the banks simply based off of race. I mean, there's programs now that are basically inputting people, white people and black people, with the same information, and just based off of that information, white people are being accepted more than the black people businesses are.
Right.
And so it's just like, you know, that shows you just like the limited opportunity that people have if they feel like I can go out in the street.
Right.
And I can make $1,000 today versus going to McDonald's.
Sure.
And I can go make $10, or you know, I can make $40 for being there for 4 hours.
So
and I hate it.
The whole opportunity aspect of it, and so then they could be, you know, young people can be drawn to like gangs and you know, things like that. You know, with the promise of you know, brotherhood and
promises. I mean,
loyalty and money. And
it's not even necessarily the brotherhood nowadays. It's more so the money, and everybody wants to
survival.
Be that top guy.
Okay.
And also the survival. You know, some people do it for the strict basis of trying to provide for their family because they don't really have that. I mean, it's so crazy because certain places like Baltimore is not close to me, but I have been there. But there's certain places in Baltimore. I used to watch a show called The Wire, which is based on Baltimore. And I didn't know before going to certain areas that it literally looked like how it did in The Wire. Boarded up whole areas of houses and stuff like that. I had no idea that it looked like that. But when you go to an area like that and there's no opportunity, what do you expect? When I lived in Auburn, I lived right on the borderline of Auburn and Opelika. And so in interacting with some of the guys there, and these are just like interviews, I guess, just me meeting people, they would tell me, you know, being in that area, there's not a whole lot of job opportunities. If you're not trying to work at Walmart or fast food or something like that, you have to sell something or do something in order to be able to provide for yourself.
It's sort of like, and you know, and it takes a lot of money to be able to move somewhere. So if you're growing up, say in, you know, poverty or like sometimes sub-poverty,
just barely making it,
or lower middle class.
A lot of people are
and oftentimes middle class, even, you
just
know,
barely making it.
Sure, I mean, barely being able to, you know, feed your family. It's difficult to you know, get yourself out of that situation. So yeah, I think that more opportunities would definitely, you know, help. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
It also would go well to people in the music industry and high profile places to not glorify certain lifestyles.
I agree with you.
That's another thing that,
like the thug life,
reason,
basically,
why people go out and do it. And that's not everybody. Like I said, there are people that are in it for, unfortunately, it's a bad profession, but they're in it for the best of reasons.
Yeah. Because
they have 3 or 4 kids and they want to do better and they want to take care of their mom who's sick because this is happening and that's happening, and that's why they're out there every day doing what they're doing,
risking their lives basically, and they're, you know,
and you know that you're doing something wrong, but at the same time you don't really have too much of an option because people may not hire you just off of that one interaction. Like me, you know, I pull into Montgomery County and say I did have some weed with me and they found it, I'm now catching a charge and that stays with me, and that now eliminates me from even to be able to get certain types of jobs. And that's not just black people, that's every single race, which is part of the defund police movement.
Right.
It's like, you can't rehabilitate somebody and leave them with a tag that limits their options for the rest
Exactly,
of their
and I agree with you on that. Yeah, we definitely need, the criminal justice reform.
Yeah, because the prisons are, it's a business.
It is, exactly, and I don't
So-
like that. They should not be privately owned like that. Yeah, I agree with you on that. There's so many things. But, we're at almost 35 minutes here. So I'm thinking to myself, because we could talk like all day long and never run out of things to say. But
We can do it again.
huh?
I'm down to do it again.
Okay, well, we're going to do it again and talk about some other stories that I know that we talked about already that you didn't talk about today. But this has been a really good start, and I really appreciate the time that you've taken with me and the willingness to do this little project. Both of us having our voices be heard, basically, but mainly your voice being heard.
Yeah.
So that's what matters to me the most right now. So anyway, we'll talk to y'all soon, and thanks so much for your time.